So how do foundries, how do affiliates, how do service agencies, how do your casting companies access funding? This is a proven process that we have found in working with companies for many, many years now. The first thing you do is you define your project. What does that mean? Well, if you call me, if we have a call, what I'm going to ask you is, what are you planning to do in the next 3, 6, 12 months? Well, we're going to invest in equipment. Okay. What kind of equipment are you going to buy? Is it more energy efficient? Is it how much are you going to spend on equipment? Once you tell me that, I'm going to say, okay, now who's going to provide that equipment? Are you guys going to go out and source the equipment, and then you're going to have a person that does that, the building of the equipment and that kind of thing? Okay, if that happens, then how much is it going to cost you to get that equipment? And how many jobs are you going to create because you invested in that equipment? Because somebody's got to run the equipment, right? So that's defining a project, looking at what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, who's going to do it, and what the outcome's going to be, and how much it's going to cost. Once we've defined that for all of your projects, and we work very closely with clients to help them really get a good definition, because the better definition they have for their project, that gives us a better idea of what to go out and look for in terms of grants. Once we have all that information, we can produce keywords that we can go out and then do that research. It takes us about 3 to 4 weeks to do research for our clients, because we do a very deep dive into state and federal sources of funding for them. So once we get that research complete, then we will present that to the client, and we will say, okay, here's all the grant opportunities that you have at the state and federal level for all your facilities. So you might have 5 facilities spread over 5 states. We'll do research into the 5 states, and we'll create a funding plan. So we'll say, okay, this is the one we're going to go after first. This is the best fit. This is the easiest, lowest hanging fruit, right? Typically, like I said, it's going to be a state grant. And then we'll help write those applications. So that is a collaborative effort with us and the company. The first couple of times we work on a grant application, we need a lot of information. We'll need things like your business plan or your goals for a project, your strategic plan. We'll need bios for anybody that's involved in the project. If it's a training project, we'll need a list of people that are going to take each training course. If you have partners, we'll need to know about them. But once we work with companies on future grant applications, that information burden becomes less and less, because we get to know your company better and we don't need to ask for as much information. We use all the information that we obtain for your company to apply for funding. We put together grant applications that are going to give you the best chance of being funded. What that means is we pay a lot of attention to what the funder wants to see in an application. You might not think that's a big deal, but when a funder says that it's a 10-page max application and you do 12 pages, that is a reason for them to throw out your application. And they will. They will just throw it out. If you don't use the right font size, it's silly that they say you have to do Times New Roman 12, right? If you don't do Times New Roman 12, there goes your application. Well, if you're in a very competitive funding situation, you want to get the best chance you have of making sure that you meet all the funder's requirements. If the funder says 5 or 6 times in an RFP that they want to see this, this, and this, we better darn make sure we're addressing that, that, and that, because if we don't, then they're not going to fund you. They clearly have their priorities. What I like about grants is in many cases, you know exactly what you have to do. It's just doing it. It's just putting together the narrative, putting together the things that you need to really convince a funder. So once you apply for funding and you find out hopefully that you got a grant, then we go back, we start with the next one, and we just kind of do a rotation. The other thing we do on our ongoing contracts is we do a monthly refresh of the research. Remember how I said that the grant landscape is changing all the time. If we go in monthly, we will likely see 1 or 2 new funding opportunities, not every month, but in most cases, at least at the federal level, we will see new funding opportunities almost every month. So we do that, and then we put that in and say, okay, is that the next priority, or is the next priority to go after the original second priority? So we do a lot of that work with clients.